You're inside a small spaceship. You're flying higher and higher, then leave the atmosphere of our planet. Hundreds of thousands of satellites with glowing advertising banners appear in front of you. One of them says, "Happy New Year, 5699. This year you have an anniversary. You will be 5,000 years old. You press a button on the touch panel and activate the ad block. Now you can't see any holographic banners through the glass. You're going to make a jump through space. A black tunnel called a wormhole appears in front of the ship. You fly inside and the hole disappears. The ship has teleported to the Andromeda Galaxy. You discovered an exoplanet here recently, similar to Earth. It's also blue, has a lot of water, but only one huge continent. The planet is hidden in dense interstellar clouds, and you hope that other people won't find it soon. But as soon as it's entered into the intergalactic register, you'll definitely buy this planet. You call it second home. Now you're flying into the atmosphere, going through the clouds, and landing on a small green hill. At the foot of it, you see several small houses made of clay and stone and thatched roofs. Near the houses, locals are working in simple clothes. They're plowing the ground, and cows are eating the grass nearby. You have turned on your stealth mode, so the locals can't see you. They aren't real people. You created them using cloning technology. The conditions on this planet are now the same as they were on real Earth in the year 699, the year when everything changed for you. You remember swimming in the lake at night and looking at the stars. One star moved from its place and began to approach. A huge flash of light and something heavy fell into the water. You lost consciousness and woke up in the morning on the shore. Only 1,000 years later, you realized it was a meteorite. The day after the star fell, you noticed that any damage on your body instantly disappeared. After a couple of decades, you realized that you get older slower than the rest of the people in your village. After another 50 years, you understood that you didn't age at all. Knights, Vikings, the Dark Middle Ages, the geniuses of the Renaissance. You see it all with your own eyes. You become an emperor of a huge empire, and then you get bored and decide to live in the slums to feel all the shades of this life. You think that some magic gave you immortality, but then you realize that any magic or sorcery is really science. You communicate with the greatest minds on the planet, make friends with incredibly bright people, and really bad ones to understand the nature of humans. Around the 15th century, you've got all the knowledge and read all the books that people could give you by this time. You begin to explore the world yourself. You discover the process of photosynthesis in plants, grasp the fundamental laws of physics, conduct amazing chemical experiments, and find out that you live on a tiny planet in an infinitely vast universe. Biology, chemistry, physics, astronomy, you learn and explore everything. The results of your scientific research in these subjects are ahead of humanity by 100 years. While the whole world is riding horses, you're already building a car with a steam engine. To hide your identity from people, you constantly change your name and place of residence. Over 1,000 years, you have learned all the languages of the world, and even those that no longer exist. You study all the psychologically known personality types. Your social and emotional intelligence is so developed that you can create a person's portrait after 1 minute of talking to them. You look into their eyes and understand what they want, are afraid of, or are ashamed of. You spend several years in continuous meditation to calm your mind and gain wisdom. You lead the life of a hermit and watch humanity slowly develop. But then, the 20th century comes, and the life of the entire planet changes dramatically. The Industrial Revolution, the first cars and trains, cinema, radio, and television. In these 100 years, people are changing more than they have in the previous 1,500 years. Now, it's hard for you to keep up with the world. New inventions appear every day and every hour. The knowledge and experience of previous years help you become one of the most influential people on the planet. World leaders listen to your opinion. Thanks to your developed communication skills, you can negotiate with any person. You go through expensive and high-quality plastic surgery operations so that no one will recognize you. You keep moving and getting a new ID every 20 years. You have a lot of money, as well as gold and other valuable metals that you've collected for centuries. You build houses and shelters in the most beautiful places on the planet. You finance the development of new technologies. Sometime in the 1950s, you predict that in the next century, there will be a unique network that will allow you to store all the knowledge of the world in a small device. With the help of this network, all people will be able to communicate with each other from different points of the Earth. You're surprised that the internet appears much earlier. Developers create virtual reality worlds with photorealistic graphics. Artificial intelligence is smart enough to rule a small country. Genetic engineering allows us to clone people and mix our bodies with robots. The first cyborgs appear. With each passing century, there's less and less space on the planet. You get tired of people and consuming new technologies, and you spend more and more time in your home on the top of Mount Everest. Humanity is taking over Mars and the Moon. Soon, these places aren't enough for people too. In the fourth millennium, scientists create a quantum engine to travel through space. You're among the first people to try this technology and make the jump to another group of planets orbiting a star similar to our solar system. Your ship breaks down and you can't go back. You're left to live alone on a new planet. Your body adapts to the conditions on it, so you don't need oxygen reserves. Then, you learn to breathe without oxygen at all. The cells of your body receive what they need for normal functioning from the surrounding gases. Your skin is getting rougher because of the dusty atmosphere of the planet. And with the increased gravity, you develop incredible strength. You'd become a super person with such a body on Earth. You manage to send a signal into space, and you hope that humanity will catch it. You've been living alone for over 500 years without books, the internet, or any communication. You spend most of the time exploring a lifeless desert world. Using parts and tools of the ship, you create a vegetable garden. You also have a lot of water reserves. During all this time, you realize that you miss the old world and your life before the meteorite fell. Some spaceship picks up your signal and comes for you. You return to your homeworld. Travel between solar systems is now as easily available as travel by subway or bus. You decide to find a planet as similar to Earth as possible to recreate human life there. Using the power of modern telescopes and your knowledge of astronomy, you discover what you've been looking for in the Andromeda Galaxy Nebula. You arrive at the second home and live a human life there. For hundreds of years, you observe people and mentally go back to your past. You protect those people from external threats, like asteroids, but don't interfere in their lives. From time to time, you fly to Earth and other planets for business. Life on the second home is becoming very similar to life on Earth. There are more and more people and cultures. Technologies are emerging. You have completed your goal, and now you want to discover other worlds. You spend the next 5,000 years studying the ever-expanding universe.
This is Earth, 335 million years ago. I wasn't around then, but there's just one supercontinent, Pangaea. See? Let's watch it shift around and fast forward. Okay, here we go. It just split into two huge pieces. Australia goes this way, North and South America go that way. Africa, Asia, Europe, forming, and there we go. The planet as it is today. Let's keep going. I mean, the continents are always on the move. Over time, some of them will crash into each other. Others will break apart. But that'll take about 100 million years. Better put it on super fast forward. 100 years from now, humans keep spitting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and the planet's already warmed up a bunch. The world's ocean levels have risen about 4 feet. The Bahamas, they've totally disappeared. 200 years from now, the Earth's population is about 19 billion people. The climate's gotten even warmer. We're packed in like sardines over here. New medical tech makes it possible to live to 180. But why? Fossil fuel reserves of oil and gas, long gone. Oh, and the continents have drifted over 16 feet. The Voyager 1 space probe's about to enter an asteroid cloud at the edge of the solar system. It's the most distant man-made object in the universe, I guess. 1,000 years from now, thanks to better quality food, humans are now 7 feet tall on average. Technology solved the pollution and fuel shortage problem. Humanity's doing just fine. Robots do all the work, we just play around all day. Ocean levels have crept up another 10 feet. Islands like the Seychelles, Maldives, Galapagos, and many others have gone underwater. Denmark, the Netherlands, Eastern England, Thailand, and Vietnam are only partially underwater. There's been a huge human migration these last 100 years. Fast forward about 5,000 more years, and it's the year 8113. Humanity's getting ready to open the crypt of civilization. It's a hermetically sealed room in Georgia, in the States. Bad Georgia. It was created in 1940, and it's full of about 800 books on microfilm, recordings of famous people's voices. It's also filled with bits of technology from that time, like a toaster, a radio, and a typewriter. Some awesome people created the crypt of civilization in case humans experienced a major catastrophe in the distant future and had to rebuild civilization from scratch. We'd all go back to using typewriters. 15,000 years from now, our planet has changed its tilt, and the Sahara Desert is now a tropical paradise. Years of rain turn the dry desert into a wild jungle. 30,000 years from now, the Voyager 1 space probe has finally left the asteroid cloud at the edge of our solar system. If it doesn't collide with anything, it'll be flying in the dark, wide-open outer space for a very long time. 50,000 years from now, the climate's changing a lot. The temperature on Earth is beginning to drop, and we are approaching the beginning of a new ice age. The radio signal with a special "Hello, all you aliens out there" message sent into space in 1974 has reached its destination. The message contained the human number system and data about our DNA and our solar system. If there was someone on the other end to receive this signal, we might have a response from them. 100,000 years from now, one of the largest known stars in our galaxy, Canis Majoris, explodes with enormous force. The explosion of this supernova can be seen from Earth, even during the day, and the nights are much brighter because of the new strong glow in the night sky. What's new on Earth? Supervolcanoes start erupting all over. These volcanoes spew colossal amounts of lava and ash everywhere. Thick black clouds cover most of the sky. This prevents the sun's rays from reaching the ground, and the temperature on our planet drops even lower. Humans mostly live underground anyway, so it's no big deal. Because the stars are gradually moving in different directions, the usual constellations are starting to change shape. Soon, we'll need to come up with totally new constellation names. 250 years from now, a new island's on the map. Back in 2021, it was just an underwater volcano somewhere in the Pacific. After thousands of years of spouting out lava, it finally reached the ocean surface and busted out in the cool, fresh air. Not much growing on it yet. Niagara Falls has long since disappeared, and Lake Erie and Lake Ontario have teamed up to form one huge super lake. 300,000 years from now, the triple star system WR-104 is about to explode. It's spinning crazy fast, and there's a chance that radiation from the explosion could eventually reach Earth. That would do a lot of damage to all life on our planet. Voyager 1 reaches the brightest star in the night sky, Sirius. Not a very funny star at all, it's really Sirius. It's 8.6 light-years from Earth. 500,000 years from now, scientists are pretty sure that a huge meteorite could fall to Earth any day now. It might be even the size of 8 football fields. The impact of such a massive meteorite would cause an explosion so powerful that its sound would be heard on every continent. That would be followed by super strong earthquakes and tsunamis higher than the Brightside Empire municipal building tower thingy. Okay, I just made that up, but who knows what we'll be building in the future. 1 million years from now, the rogue star Gliese 710 comes very close to our solar system. We're surrounded by a huge shield of asteroids called the Oort cloud, and the rogue star is beginning to affect the asteroids hanging out in there. It grabs them, spins them around, and throws them toward the center of our solar system. Comets start to fall on our planet all the time, big ones, causing more tsunamis and earthquakes. 10 million years from now, the Red Sea is gradually expanding into the East African Rift. Africa is now divided in two by a new oceanic gulf. The human DNA molecule has completely decomposed. But it's no big deal. We've become totally digital, without any pesky aging problems. The really cool thing is that other animals have evolved a lot and changed ridiculously. Thanks to a simple interface, we're actually able to talk to dolphins, chimps, dogs, and cats. Turns out cats aren't grumpy, they're just busy contemplating life. 25 million years from now. The San Andreas Fault has been crazy recently and has caused the Gulf of California to flood the Central Valley. There's a new sea on the west coast of North America. 50 million years from now, Africa just collided with Eurasia. The Mediterranean Sea is totally gone. There's a new tallest mountain in the world. Its name? Mount Everest, of course. Australia is continuing its journey north. It already collided with Southeast Asia a few million years ago. The few human colonies still left on Mars need to do some serious packing. Phobos, one of Mars' moons, is beginning to orbit at a lower and lower altitude. That's not good. It's about 14 miles wide, so that's going to be unpleasant. 60 million years from now, the Canadian Rocky Mountains have completely eroded. It's just one gigantic flat plain. 80 million years from now, all that remains of Hawaii is one island. All the others have long since gone underwater. But just next door, a whole new chain of Hawaiian islands has emerged. Finally, 100 million years from now, we made it! The Atlantic shrinking down to nothing. The Americas are almost rubbing up against Africa. Africa's already merged with Eurasia. We've got ourselves a supercontinent again. Hello, Pangaea Proxima. All traces of human life are gone or buried deep underground. The movement of the continents has destroyed tunnels, roads, buildings, bridges. Animals and plants now reign supreme on Earth. So, where are all the humans? Well, remember we made the jump to digital about 90 million years ago? Things are still going strong. There are trillions of human minds living on a huge hard drive on a spaceship orbiting Earth. The super low space temperature is good for keeping the drive nice and cool. We have millions of different societies, languages, and cultures just like we had 100 million years ago. The only difference? We're all little ones and zeros in a huge digital universe that we created. And yes, there's still football. Heh, there's water on that there moon. No, really? But of course you knew that, right? However, NASA didn't know there was water on the moon when Apollo astronauts went to the moon 50 years ago. The astronauts brought back 842 pounds of rocks from the moon in hermetically sealed bags. When some of the hermetically sealed bags had water in them, NASA thought the bags had gotten contaminated from landing in the ocean. It was moon water, but NASA never made the connection that the water came from the moon rocks because, hey, there's no water on the moon, right? We now know that that's wrong. There definitely is water on the moon. However, who discovered that there is water on the moon is a bit of a tangled question. India claims that their Chandrayaan-1 lunar orbiter discovered water in the moon's soil. Regolith is the geologic term during its 2008-2009 mission. That claim is disputed because the Chandrayaan-1 spacecraft took only infrared spectral readings of the lunar surface at 3 nanometers. The positive results could also indicate OH molecules as well as H2O. OH is a hydroxyl, meaning it could be either an acid or an alcohol. India sent Chandrayaan-2 to the moon in July 2019 to confirm the earlier findings, and did find H2O by taking infrared spectral readings at 6 nanometers. But NASA's SOFIA laboratory claimed it found water on the moon in August of 2018. SOFIA, the Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, flying at 45,000 feet aboard a modified Boeing 747 SP, took 6 nanometer spectral readings of the lunar surface and found the clear signature for water in August 2018. However, there is some dispute about that too. SOFIA's readings were not consistent with variations in temperatures on the moon. So, what's going on here? It's there, and then it isn't. Clearly, a hands-on measurement of the temperature on the lunar regolith is necessary to pin down if and when water is present in the sunlight on the moon. Therefore, the blue ribbon for the definite discovery of water in the rocks and soil on the moon must be given to China's Chang'e 5 lunar rover, working on the moon's near side in 2020. The question becomes, how much water is in the dirt and rocks on the moon? The answer? Not much. About 1 drop of water could be squeezed out of every cubic meter of regolith, and just slightly more in the rocks. Engineers are currently scratching their heads, trying to figure out what kind of machinery to design and build that will be able to mine this moon water. It is essential that the water be found locally on the moon. Water is too heavy to bring in any large quantities up to the moon to supply human activity such as building a planned moon base. Without a water supply, long-term human presence on the moon is a definite no-go. Fortunately, water is believed to exist more abundantly on the moon in another location, at the moon's south pole. As early as 2010, NASA radar mapped the polar regions of the moon. Radar mapping depends on the bounce back or reflective signal of the radar waves. Radar bounces back differently when it strikes land or water or ice. Just like with your eyes closed, you can tell if someone is knocking on metal, wood, or plastic. The sound waves have their own distinctive pattern, just like radar does. The amount of time it takes to receive the bounce-back signal creates a map of the surface topography. Mountains, valleys, and ridges can all be mapped accurately, creating a detailed surface map. When passing over the craters of the lunar south pole, the radar-ranging reflection bounced back with a signal that indicated ice within the craters. This was big news and a thrilling finding. It is a peculiar quality of craters at the moon's south pole that the sun never shines down into the craters. The angle of sunlight merely skips horizontally across the tops of the craters, never going down into the craters. The unique polar location creates a situation where the upper rims of polar craters are always in the sunlight, but the bottoms of the craters never receive sunlight. Ice at the bottom of the craters will never melt. Over 40 permanently dark craters lie in the vicinity of the lunar South Pole, and they all appear to have ice in them. Space agencies from all around the world quickly made announcements that they were planning moon bases at the lunar South Pole. China, Russia, Europe, and Japan are planning to place solar panels around the rims of the craters, since they have sunlight 24/7, and mine the ice at the bottom of the craters. NASA was not so quick to do that. Wisely, NASA chose not to make extravagant plans based on a single observation. It's just not good science. Multiple observations are necessary. If your cousin Billy at dinner sees the salt shaker levitate and float in the air, but no one else notices it, it might not have happened, no matter how much Billy insists it did happen. Multiple observations are necessary for something to be considered real, and at least one of those observations must involve direct contact. NASA launched the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter to orbit closely over these craters at the moon's south pole. Of the 7 LRO instruments taking detailed readings is the LAMP instrument, which can take ultraviolet images of the dark craters as they are illuminated by sunlight. Pretty clever. Current thinking estimates that there is 1 trillion pounds of water ice in the permanently dark craters at the lunar south pole, or about 500 billion liters of water. This is close to about what the whole United States uses in just 2 days. But for a moon base, 5 billion liters of water could last 1,000 years. Now, how did this ice get there? Comets are the best explanation. Comets can be composed of many different kinds of ice, water ice being the most common, since oxygen and hydrogen are so prevalent in space. Earth is the only place in our solar system, however, with Italian ices. When a comet crashes into the lunar south pole and makes a crater, the ice is trapped there, never to melt or evaporate since it is compacted into the moon's surface. Radar readings have indicated ice as deep as 60 feet below the surface at the bottom of these dark craters. It's going to get very crowded at the moon's south pole when all these countries begin carrying out their plans to exploit the perpetual sunlight on the crater rims and the ice at the crater's dark depths. The moon's south pole is fast becoming the most valuable and most coveted piece of real estate outside of the Hamptons on Long Island, New York. But NASA still hasn't gotten its final direct sensation of water ice at the lunar South Pole. They tried, and NASA is still trying. The L-Cross spacecraft fired a heavy projectile down into the dark crater Cabeus. The idea was to create a plume of gas from the impact that would rise above the crater rim, and a following spacecraft would fly through the plume of gas and take direct measurements of it. This would be the physical proof of water in the polar craters that NASA was looking for. L-Cross found plenty of hydrogen, along with sodium, mercury, and silver in the gaseous cloud raised from the crater floor, but no H2O molecules. The amount of hydrogen in the plume led many scientists to insist that water ice had to be the source. But there was still room for some doubt. It was not the direct detection that NASA had hoped for. Coming soon, Prime 1 will drill for ice at the Moon's south polar area. PRIME is an acronym that stands for Polar Resources Ice Mining Experiment. The probe will only be able to drill 3 feet deep, but NASA hopes that it is deep enough to find ice compacted into the Moon below the level of the regolith. Prime 1 is part of, and a prelude to, the Artemis human crewed mission to the Moon. NASA has not had boots on the Moon in over 50 years. In fact, we haven't landed anything on the Moon during all the years since the last Apollo mission in 1972. We have landed rovers on Mars many times in the intervening years, but not the Moon. Now, with the almost certainty of water ice on the Moon, the race is on to set up a human crewed station at the south pole of the Moon. Water on the Moon is not only creating a lot of excitement in the science community, it's also creating a lot of drama on the ground. So, now you are informed. It's not going to be just another space launch. This is a biggie. We're going back to the Moon. It's going to be awesome.